Before we proceed formally, we would invite the Minister of Religious Affairs to lead us in Muslim prayer.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه يا مولانا فإنك نعم المولى والنصير ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار ربنا احفظنا واحفظنا عقيدتنا وشرفنا وديننا وأعراضنا وزوجتنا وأنفسنا وأولادنا ورئيسنا وبلداننا ومولانا فإنك نعم المولى ونعم النصير اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد وارحم محمد وآل محمد وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت ورحمت وباركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما صلى الله تعالى عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Merciful and Almighty God, we thank you for this opportunity to be available here. We offer prayers for President Yahya Jammeh, the Vice President and the Cabinet. We offer prayers for ourselves who have traveled far, that this country will remain peaceful as it has always been, and that whatever we come here to do will be successful. We ask this to Christ our Lord. Amen.
Thank you very much. Your Excellency, the President of the Islamic Republic of the Gambia, Sheikh Professor Dr. Alhaji Yahya A.J.J. Jammeh, High Excellency the Vice President and Minister of Women's Affairs, Honorable Ministers present, our guests, members of the Africa Bar Association, protocol, the press, and security present here. This gathering is, in a sense, an audience granted by His Excellency the President to members of the Africa Bar Association in the persons of Mr. Hannibal Ekpe Waifo, who is the President of the Africa Bar Association, Mr. Ibrahim Eddie Mark, who is the Vice President, the President, and Mr. Ibrahim Eddie Mark, Vice President, responsible for Budget and Finance, but also the Chairman of the Gambian Forum of the Africa Bar Association in the person of Uzoma Achikwe. Your Excellency, the purpose of the visit of our guest is twofold. Primarily, they are here to extend an invitation to Your Excellency to attend their 2017 Pan-African Congress in Nigeria in August 2017, but also to come and discuss with Your Excellency the complaints that have been launched following the presidential elections on December 1st, 2016, with a view to proffering advice leading to an amicable and an expeditious resolution of the contentious issues. I think with those introductory remarks, with your permission, Your Excellency, we invite Mr. Hannibal Ekpe Waifo, the President of the Africa Bar Association, to make a statement. Your Excellency.
Your Excellency, I'm used to standing, but it appears as if the protocol here is to sit. Your Excellency, the President of the Islamic Republic of Gambia, Sheikh Dr. Alhaji Yahya A.J.J. Jammeh, Bibili Mansa, the Vice President, other senior members of the Cabinet, the Honorable Attorney General and Minister for Justice, very senior cabinet members of the government of Gambia, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, members of the press. I want to thank His Excellency for granting us audience to be here. We are the leaders of the African Bar Association, and we would still have been here for the first reason that we just finished a conference in Zimbabwe earlier in September where it was resolved that we invite His Excellency to be at the next conference during the Pan-African discussion in Nigeria, Port Harcourt, South Nigeria. It's just that we probably would have left that till in January. But the issues arising in Gambia, part of our continent, Africa, a very important part of Africa, has made us to expeditiously come to the Gambia. And we want to thank His Excellency and members of the government of Gambia for granting us audience. Your Excellency, Gambia to us is a very important country. And we want to thank you and praise the government of this country for the giant strides that have been made over the past 22 years. Whoever has not seen that is probably blind or deaf. So we want to commend you for what you have done and what you did for your people. A lot of us were very happy when my second time of entering the Gambia, the Vice President told very glowing stories of how he came here with his wife and family to spend the holidays. That peace must be sustained in Gambia, and we are going to insist and ensure that that's done by the special grace of Almighty Allah. It will be done. There is no way any country can survive without peace. And the peace which Gambia has been enjoying, inshallah, Gambia will continue to enjoy it. And so that's why we are particularly worried and disturbed about the events in Gambia. We had just, arising from the Harare conference, we had issues from Gambia to Gabon. The ways of the African Bar is not to run into problems or issues that we have not seen or heard from the parties. So in Burundi, in Harare, there was a decision that we must visit Burundi to see what's going on in Burundi before we can make any statement on Burundi. The same thing with Gabon. I'm happy to report to Your Excellency and your cabinet that the government of Burundi received us, opened their doors for us. We went around the town in Burundi, we interviewed people, we met with the bar associations. And on Wednesday last week, we released the temporary report on Burundi at our headquarters in Abuja, Nigeria. We are going to Burundi to release the final report to the government of Burundi and thereafter submit same to the United Nations and to other countries. I'm not going to comment more on the Burundi because he's a member, he's now subject of the press. But the final report will clearly be sure to be mind-boggling, to know how Africa is dealt with and why we should be very careful about involving outsiders in our activities in Africa. It's very important. The African Bar will not take it. The African Bar does not subscribe to it. The African Bar believes in African solutions. Our discussions with the bar in Gambia, in Burundi, was an eye-opener, and it brought them to understand what the role of a bar is vis-a-vis government. And that's the engagement that the African Bar wants to continue to sustain with all governments across the continent. We are on our way to Gabon, but the exigencies of being in Gambia has made us to leave Gabon till January. It's not been easy for us flying from one capital to the other. The Vice President has to leave what is going on to do in Cameroon because we have some issues in Cameroon. I have to leave what I was doing back to fly to Sierra Leone, and he had to find his way here. Getting here was not just easy. But it is our responsibility. Gambia is Africa. We come here to enjoy ourselves. So whatever is happening here is our duty. The African Bar is not doing this as a favor to Gambia, but as our own responsibility to our own people. And that's the reason why we are here. We believe that the issues arising out of the Gambian elections can best be discussed and addressed by Gambians. there is a sitting government in Gambia. And so I'm not going to involve myself in the irresponsible reports of the international press or whatever they are writing. We are here to listen to both sides, to listen to the government, the ruling party, to also listen to the other side, which is the legal provisions that we lawyer, the way we act, hear the other side. And then from there, we'll be able to address the issues. I do not see anything too complex in this. There is an election. We have issued a statement, and it's in the public domain. An election is as important as the process of resolving disputes arising out of the election. It's the same. You cannot have an election and you do not have a responsible dispute resolution mechanism. You are joking. Because if anything comes out of you, it must be resolved justly. I'm happy to hear, to know that the ruling party had made their protests. That's the way it should go. And I think that should be supported. Please, we should clap for the government of Gambia. That is the responsible thing to do. That is the law of Gambia. And we must all respect that law. We must not talk about who is involved. We must talk about the law of this country. The law of this country is supreme to everybody. And it's supreme to every... It is not the English law. It is not the law of Britain that runs here. It is the law of America that runs here. It is not the law of the United Nations. I understand that we may have correspondence rules that guide us here. But that doesn't mean that the sovereignty of the Republic of Gambia has been surrendered. And so we must be careful how we deal with issues. So for us on the African bar, I must tell Your Excellency, we do not have a position. We will only have a position after we have discussed with the government of Gambia and the opposition and the president-elect. Then we should be able to advise as appropriate. We have heard several things. We want to thank the Attorney General of the Gambia, Islamic Republic of Gambia, where she was gracious enough out of her tight schedule to meet with her this morning. That is the first thing we do. Ordinarily, we meet with the bar who will take us to the Attorney General. From there, we discuss. But we understand the exigencies here. And so we've met with the Attorney General, and we're very proud of her. She's one of the several women we've met. Or when we went to Burundi, it was also a woman that was Attorney General of Burundi. And she received us very well. And lucky enough for us, in the African Bar Association, our Vice President for West Africa is a woman, the President of the Sierra Leone Bar Association. The Vice President in charge of East Africa from Uganda is also a woman. Then the Vice President for Southern Africa, the President of the Zimbabwe Law Society, is also a woman. So it's only one man that we have as Vice President Central Africa that's from Cameroon. So we are gender sensitive. So where there are women in a country and in a cabinet, there cannot be any problem because there will always be solutions. So we thank the Attorney General and the Minister for Justice. She sat with us this morning and gave us a vivid version of what we have not even heard. There were certain things we were told the Supreme Court it can't solve the problem because the government has refused to appoint judges for a long time. That's what's out in the press. And I asked the Attorney General, why are we not hearing this part of it? We were giving documents to show today that these things had been there. And some of the judges in these things, we know them because they are from our country. So we need to be truthful in whatever we are doing. We need to deal with everybody. We need to fear God in whatever we are doing because we are always answerable to God. So we have that information. Assuming we had gone to town to be making all these allegations without having come here, we would have been in problem. Just like the things we saw in Burundi. So we, as lawyers, would have been misleading people. That's why we are here. And we ask for full cooperation from the government. So far, so good. We have the expertise. I want to assure His Excellency, we have the expertise of resolving these issues. We don't need anybody. We have the expertise. What is important is President Yahya Jammeh and his cabinet have done a lot for this country and have done a lot for Africa. I take off time as president of the African Bar to listen to comments by His Excellency most of the time. They are Pan-African. And I find myself agreeing with most of them. What's going on? I might not agree with everything, but most of it I agree with. So I want to thank Your Excellency for the views which represent the way Africa should go. We must love ourselves. The Englishman, the American, the German can never love you more than yourself. It's not possible. And I said it before, and I repeat it again before the press. All interventions that have taken place in Africa have left with disastrous consequences. And that is part of our press release. Therefore, nobody should even dream about it. Gambia is not at war. Gambia will not be at war. The people who run elections here are Gambians. They are not Germans. I'm not even sure any Nigerian ran any election here. Therefore, we as lawyers who hold the torchlight in the continent must come. We commend the heads of states who are here, who came here to mediate in the issue. I think that's the proper thing to do. Come over and try to see what is happening. We also want to thank the attorneys generals, particularly those of West African states, who have spoken with me and who have been in touch with me in trying to advise me what kind of steps we take. And I said, unfortunately, we do not have any position until we have seen and heard what's on ground. So on that note, I want to say that we are extremely happy to be here. We would like to be advised about the way things are going. What I can say openly is, I will also request clearly so that the press can know that a permission of His Excellency and your government to meet with the opposition leaders and the president-elect as declared by the Electoral Commission at this time to be able to hear what that side of the story is. After then, we'll be able to tell both sides what we should do to resolve these issues. The courts are there. We believe very much in courts. And one thing I want to say, Your Excellency, the European comments about the court of Gambia being biased is totally irresponsible. Highly irresponsible, and I think it's unacceptable. We as lawyers, we swore oath to follow the law and deal with the law. When a court gives judgment, a court has given judgment. How he gives it is not a responsibility. You have cadres. The Supreme Court is the highest court in the land. If you say so, how many people have gone to war because of judgments of Supreme Court in Britain or in America or in other crimes? So why are we disparaging a court that have not even started sitting? This must be resisted by Africans. The African bar wants to stay categorically to the international press. We condemn this interference. The court should give its judgment. The court should look at the case and give its judgment. But having said that, the African bar also believes that there could also be solutions based on father, son, brother, sisters, and all that. But any attempt to disparage the court of Gambia will not be accepted by the African bar system. So we want to thank you, Your Excellency, and we, like I said, we want to continue to pray for your good health of mind and body. We want to pray for the Vice President. We want to pray for senior cabinet ministers, especially our Attorney General, who has promised to come to Port Harcourt to join us at the conference. And we do hope then His Excellency, whatever the case is, will be there in Port Harcourt. You know, we know he will be there, and we are going to discuss Africa and Africanism and the problems of Africa in such a manner as to promote our fraternal brotherhood and our democratic values, which are twinned with Africanism. I tell Your Excellency, I was telling the Attorney General this morning before I close, that in Burundi, we met a funny situation. When I met with the Attorney General, who was the first line, and the Attorney General told me, look, can you imagine? The Belgian ambassador was here, came to here, to Burundi with a man and his wife, and on several attending state functions. And we said, look, the laws of Burundi, this is a crime. But the ambassador wouldn't listen. Come on, you are not in your country. No one can do that in your country. And he kept doing it, and I'm happy to report to you he was expelled. And that's the proper thing to do. It's in our report. So we shouldn't take our God-given land for granted. While we make mistakes and correct them, no government is perfect. There are mistakes. But once we make these mistakes, anybody that comes on corrects it. But not to harass people or make inflammatory remarks. That's not acceptable to the African bar. I want to thank Your Excellency for this audience. I want to thank you all. God bless the Islamic Republic of Gambia.
Thank Thank you very much, Mr. President. We will now invite the Vice President, Mr. Ibrahim Edi Mak, to make a statement. Mr. Mak, please.
Sheikh Professor Dr. Alhaji Yahya AJJ Jammeh, Bavili Mansa, the Vice President, Ajaratu Dr. Isatu Nje Saidi, Attorney General of the Federation of Gambia, the Islamic Republic that we have here, and other senior cabinet ministers. It says very gratifying and worthy of note that we are here with the kind permission and approval of His Excellency. I've been here before, about 3 years ago. I came with my wife. We stayed for about 10 days during the Christmas holiday and New Year, and it was a very good experience. And we in the African Bar Association haven't seen that there is no tourism destination in this world that is better or more secure than Gambia. There is nowhere you go to Europe now that you will not be faced with one terrorist attack or the other every day. You can't move on the street without looking at your shoulder and all that. But we have that here, and that is the Europeans. They are rushing down here every year. We saw the number of people, and they are still coming. Since we came here, we have seen a lot of them. You see, sometimes they want to suffer in denial, but we will not allow them that type of posture they want to portray of Africa. There is nowhere we can say there is no dispute in life, even in the family. We are all Africans. Before this system of law we adopted, we have family way of settling disputes. We have all those natural ways. We come to the family unit. If you face, you go to the town, the bigger one. From there, you can go to the chief, who will now give final ruling. You have also all those layers. And when we do that, we settle and everybody go home peacefully. So, in aligning with my president, we said, look, because since we came on board, we said, look, we must be doing things this African way. Because there is no how a stranger will like you more than yourself. It is never done, no matter how you look at it. Like we saw one of the problems we noticed in Gabon, which we will also face. What was even the major problem? Because the Gambian president insisted on having their raw materials, bringing industries to manufacture the goods in Gabon. That is the offense he committed against France. They want them to be exporting all these things to France and manufacture and bring the finished goods. Why wouldn't they enjoy the benefit of God-given natural resources? Why not bring the industry? Why not? That is the man's offense. But we are praying that God will not allow them to succeed. We are also praying that we are not doing this thing for ourselves. We have our children unborn. We have so many people. Let us redirect them. Let us say, look, there is no how we will not have disputes in the election. Even in the family election, who will be chief, we are always having problems. But it's always resolved. Both the opposition and Mr. President, all of them are Gambians. Everybody who wanted to rule have the interest of his people at heart. But no two people can rule. It's only one person at the time. If you win today, you may lose tomorrow, or you may lose today and win tomorrow. We have that spirit and not do anything, because the best consideration we thought in this matter, let us think of Gambians. Let us think of what this country, how many people? This country, I don't think it's up to 2 million. So why would you put it into conflagration? Why should we allow people to push us to war, fighting your brother that you have nothing, no problem with? So we are exceedingly grateful that at least the president has been there for some time. So it's not like he's learning. He doesn't know what are the problems. He has faced many of these type of problems. So it is easy for him to understand what is happening. He also has a notion of where he was leading his country to. He has done so many things that cannot be obliterated, whether he like it or not. Not everybody will like Mr. President. There's no doubt about that. But the important thing is that it's between you and Allah whether you are doing the right thing. Because it's only Allah who knows the mind of people. So it is for us to encourage amicable resolution of disputes. That's why, yes, court is there. But even if we can sit down at the table now, you and your brother say, okay, this is how you want it. Nobody will put his mouth because it is what you have agreed to do. If you sit down and say, this is how we want to, so this is what, nobody will talk of even court tomorrow because the people have said this is how they want their thing to be. You can't force anybody. Like the Attorney General knows, that's why we have what they call alternative dispute resolution. That one is not judged. It's what you people have agreed that the court will take as the judgment. Nobody is going to force you left and right. So whichever way we look at it, at the end of the day, it is a win-win situation we came for. So that we will, at the end, we say, yes, we have done this for our country, we have done this for our continent. We will still remember that this is a very good place that has helped a lot of us. Thank you, Mr. President.
Very much, Mr. Vice President. We would now invite the chairman of the Gambian Forum, Mr. Chikwe, to say a few words.
Your Excellency, the President, Sheikh Professor Dr. Alhaji Yahya AJJ Jammeh, Babili Mansa, Your Excellency, the Vice President, Ajaratu Dr. Aissatou Njai Saidi, Honorable Attorney General and Minister of Justice of the Gambia, Honorable Cabinet members, senior military personnel here present, members of the press, do not indict me for breach of protocol. May I recognize the presence of the President of the African Bar Association, the Vice President, Budget and Finance, and other members. It is a great privilege for me, personally and officially, to be in your presence today. And it's an auspicious moment in that it is not every time you have the opportunity of bearing your minds before the rulers, let me put it that way. My President and Vice President has spoken at length on the reason why the African Bar Association is enjoying the special audience of the President today. I will not dilate on that. Rather, the lawyer that I am, I will align myself with all their views in totality. And I will urge that they who have come here are exceedingly and really has the interest of the country, the Gambia, at heart. You may believe it or not, because you will look at me and look at the marks on my face. I am a Gambian as well. I am a Gambian, and I have a generation of Gambians coming after me. And as such, I have particular interest in whatever is going on here today. I will say that the reason why it is very easy for me to align myself with the African Bar Association is that I don't jump into conflicts and take a position without, first of all, understanding the nitty-gritty of it. And since I have sworn on the day I was called to bar that I will be fair to all. As a lawyer, it is disgusting for me to align myself in a partisan manner when I have sworn to defend fairness. I will leave it at that. And I will once again thank His Excellency, the President, Sheikh Professor Dr. Alhaji Yahya AJJ Jammeh Babile Mansa, for granting us this audience. And I want to assure you that at the end of the day, considering the personnel that we have from the association who are here today, that inshallah a solution will come out of this. Thank you very much.
Very much, Chairman of the Gambian Forum, Your Excellency the President, Your Excellency the Vice President, Cabinet Ministers, our distinguished guests of the Africa Bar Association. It is now my singular honor to invite His Excellency the President of the Republic to respond to the statements that you have made. Your Excellency the President.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله رب العالمين. Your Excellency the Vice President, Honorable Ministers, Secretary General, Secretary to Cabinet, Your Excellency the President of the African Bar Association, Mr. Hannibal Waifo, I hope I pronounce it correctly. The Vice President of the Africa Bar Association and Budget and Finance, Mr. Ibrahim Edimak, the Chairman of the Gambian Forum, Mr. Osuma Achibwe, members of the press, protocol, and fellow Gambians. I thank Your Excellency and your association. First, I want to welcome you to your second home, the Gambia. And I want to thank you for the good work that you are doing for Africa. Your presence here today shows your concern for Africa, Africa's development, knowing fully well, as you reiterated, that nothing can happen without peace and tranquility. I have always been a man of peace, and I will always be a man of peace until I leave this world. I want to thank you for all your attempts to make sure that African disputes and conflicts are settled the African way and by Africans. I also want to assure you that by the grace of the Almighty Allah, I have accepted your invitation, and inshallah I'll be with you during your conference that is coming up. Inshallah, by the grace of the Almighty Allah, I guarantee you my presence in whatever capacity. Because you also made it clear that in whatever capacity I am invited, and I want to assure you that I accept the invitation wholeheartedly, because I believe that, and I'm convinced, I've watched you walk around conflict areas, those areas you mentioned, and I've seen the fact that you are true to the oath you have taken of being a lawyer that will find facts and act based on facts. What happened in the Gambia is very interesting. Never before, for the past 22 years, did we have such interference from outside in our electoral process, which obviously is unacceptable. For the first time also, we have seen, you thank the heads of state that came to mediate, I gave them all the facts surrounding what has happened. And when they went, ECOWAS decided to make their own ruling, thereby in fact saying, which of course was not which was a foreign decision, that no matter what, somebody has been elected, and that person must be the president, because originally I accepted the results. Whatever is true, I want to assure you that I have no reason to cheat, and I will never cheat because the next world is more important than me. My relationship with Allah is more important than my relationship with any creature. The elections in this country have been going on. We had 4 presidential elections during my time, and at no election did we have such problems that we encountered, unusual problems. And I believe in the peaceful resolution of conflicts. But I also believe in one thing, that whatever Allah decides is what is going to happen. Yes, I accepted the results based on what I believe was true. For the first time in the history of this country, 360,000 people out of the electoral registered voters of 898,000 something, that's registered to vote. Out of that, out of 800,000 plus, 360,000 plus voters didn't turn up. And there was no explanation for this. And even the commentary on the GRTS and radio and television were saying, the analysts were saying, this is not possible. So we need an explanation for this. And so there has never been such, and then some say, oh, maybe voter apathy. But this has never happened in the past 4 elections that we had, which were even more keenly contested by people that are well known to this country, and opposition people that were known to this country. Now, when we looked at it, believing that what used to happen in the past happened when the Electoral Commission is independent and honest, and that they will do a fair job, a good job, I accepted the results that were announced. And what also made it clear that we are going to find out why 360,000 people have not voted. I called the then president-elect because he was declared the winner, and congratulated him, and even talked about a transition period. After that, the Electoral Commission did what has never happened in my lifetime, and even during the time that there was another government in this country. Of course, in those days, the elections of the First Republic were supervised by the Ministry of Local Government and I think Interior. And they appointed the electoral officers, returning officers, whatever. My brother, the elections in the Gambia is such that whatever is put in the ballot, you cannot cheat, because if the rules and regulations are followed, nobody will have cause to query. And because the previous elections, then IEC under that leadership, which is not there now, made sure that they followed the electoral laws of this country to the letter, thereby dispelling any room for complaint. Now, the electoral law says, what are the electoral laws of the Gambia say that no polling or voting will start at any polling station unless all parties have their representatives, what they call polling agents, at the polling station. It is when every party is represented, all the representatives are there, that the IEC would allow people to start voting in the presence of everyone. Because what we have here is not the ballot papers, we have tokens. And each candidate has a box. Now, it is what is put in your box that is counted. In this situation, this election, our agents, we are the ruling party, we are the government of the day. Our polling agents were not allowed in from 8 a.m. to 1 o'clock in the afternoon in some stations, polling stations, and these are major polling stations. Now, they made everything possible to make sure that they go in, and they were told that they cannot, they kicked them out of the vicinity. In elections in this country, all the past 4 elections, we make sure that the security do not interfere, and in fact we make sure that there's less security presence. Because each time I won, they say, oh, the soldier, they say horrible lies. But of course when you think of people that have no moral values, that's normal. That all the soldiers were dancing in the street. The soldiers are Gambians, they are registered voters, and if they have a right to support any party. Should that intimidate anybody? The soldiers were going to vote and they were dancing. What is wrong with that? So, be it the Commonwealth, the European Union, the Americans, each time we have elections, they say the elections were not free and fair. And in most cases, it is the opposition that is always bent on violence, to create an atmosphere of electoral violence so that they can use that to say, oh, it is the government that instigated that. But I always tell people to keep the peace and ignore the provocations. To the extent that I think in 2000, one of the elections, I think 2006 it was, the then opposition leader said I was going to teach the APRC a lesson. They got hold of one of our drivers. Not only did they beat him to death, they cut him into pieces. He was arrested and taken to a court of law where all the exhibits were made. And there was, at that time we were members of the Commonwealth, where we had Commonwealth judges on technical assistance paid by the Commonwealth. And this Commonwealth judge made a funny ruling. The case dragged on for almost 2 years. And then they brought this Commonwealth judge to dismiss the case and say it was politically motivated. When you have witnesses coming to testify, pictures are shown of how they cut the body into pieces. And the judge said it was politically motivated, acquitted and discharged the criminal, and then left the country. Now, all attempts to appeal were frustrated. So, then it's the same person that early part of this year, whilst I was in Turkey, organized an illegal protest. But before going to the protest, he called the press and made a press conference that he's ready to die, but he's going out without a police permit to protest. What does that really mean? Because a violent protest started and it was put off, it was taken care of by the security, and now he's saying that he's ready to go out and die, but he's not going to ask for a permit. The same person that killed an APRC supporter, cut him into pieces, only to be freed by a corrupt Commonwealth judge under the influence of outside forces, and left the country. Now he's emboldened again to say that he's ready to die. Now if you say I'm going out and I'm ready to die, are you going for a peaceful demonstration? No. So he went out to protest, and but when he made the press conference, no Western country said anything about this, which means they are the ones instigating trouble in this country. I know that they don't like me. Do I care? I don't. I'm serving the interests of my country and my continent. What I want is what they don't want to hear from an African head of state. Independent African countries developing peacefully. This is what they don't want to hear. I know I made many enemies. Do I care? I don't. I care about what my relationship with Allah and the Gambian people. So they were even making threats that, oh, if you don't release this guy, he was convicted by a court of law. And they're making threats that if I don't release the person, there would be sanctions. I said, I heard your voice. Whatever sanctions you want, the results will be determined by Allah, not you. And I cannot be blackmailed into accepting this. And they say he was protesting for electoral reform. Reform of the electoral process. And the guy himself is a lawyer. Now, what is the reform he is asking for? Now, this year. Because in our constitution there is no term limit, but there is age limit. So after the age of 65, you cannot contest for presidential election. And now he wants us to change the constitution, that provision in the constitution, because he wants to contest again. But if you want to do that, you go to the courts. Constitutional reform cannot be enforced by intimidation and violence. We will not allow that. So maybe they would have told you that, oh yes, they are asking for political reform. The political reform they are talking about is a constitutional change, a change of what is in the constitution, which will of course require a referendum. So you cannot just go, and they waited until I left, which was also planned by them and their supporters, that they should do it whilst I'm outside of the country. They did that when I was in Turkey. There's nothing they have not accused me of. But if prophets were accused of so many things, who am I to expect that nobody will accuse me of anything? So, coming back to these elections, as I said, when the results were announced, believing that the same system was used, I said, okay, I accept this. If this is the verdict of the people, this is my destiny. I accepted in good faith and I congratulated the person. Then I think this was on a Friday. Monday, I think, the same IEC that announced the results called all the parties to their headquarters and said that they have made mistakes in the results. They called and then stated that this is what has happened, that the tabulation of the election results from the 53 constituencies was done correctly. Furthermore, regional election results were also tabulated correctly from Banjul to Basse administrative areas. However, when the total votes per region were being tallied, certain figures were inadvertently transposed. Instead of adding the total number of votes polled by Mr. Adama Barrow in the Basse administrative area, the IEC added the total number of ballots cast for Basse administrative area to Adama Barrow's total number of votes, thus swelling the number of votes Mr. Barrow polled nationally. This is very clear language. It is not from me. And they said this error was repeated across for other contesting candidates. I think this was an afterthought, but this is what they added. Having noticed this, the error is now corrected, and this is the actual result. You will realize that, one, they didn't say the number that was involved. How they rectified it was not mentioned. Now, so we realize that this is unacceptable. And the opposition themselves, if this was said about me, they would not accept the result. The West would not have accepted the result. But because they have an agenda, their problem in Africa is Yahya Jammeh and other heads of state. And I stand to die for what I believe in. That because you are white or whatever color doesn't mean that I should worship you. Those days are gone when they were forcing us to, when we were their slaves and we were their colonies, they were the colonial masters. Today, the only master is the Almighty Allah that I worship and nobody else. And I stand for what is right, and I'll make sure that I stand for justice. So, then more things came in. At that time, they didn't tell us the fact that in fact, on Saturday, I started receiving reports of what really happened that led to the 360 plus people not voting. We realized that, one, in some areas, these are big populated areas, our party representative called polling agents were not allowed in from 8 in the morning to 1 p.m. when there was an intervention by the governor. Now, also during the time that they were counting, we sat here all night long, where I noticed that when they announced, because normally they should announce who were the polling agents of the party who has signed the results. What happened is they count box by box, and all the polling agents must sign that this is the true number of votes that this particular person has before it is announced, before it is sent to the IEC and announced. All the parties. So they go party by party, candidate by candidate, each your box they count, and then it is signed by all the party agents. I realized that in two different administrative areas, they announced the name of 2 people in 2 polling stations. And I was wondering, how is it possible that polling that is going simultaneously, countrywide, that you can be a polling agent in one polling station, bureau, and at the same time be at another one and sign the results. Now, what are they? That is not possible. But because these people were denied, kicked out, when the deputy governor intervened and called the IEC, they told them, in fact, this deputy governor decided to go and represent us at one of the polling stations. After voting has gone on from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. So I think what happened was, after that particular polling station agents were, party representatives were allowed in, they told him that there's another place also where they kicked out our people. So he decided also to go to that particular police station. So it happened also in Basse administrative area. Now, on Saturday, I started making investigations to find out why 360,000 people didn't vote. Then we realized so many abnormalities. One, the voter register, what they call the master register, which is prepared by the IEC. This time around, we realized that the IEC that prepared the voters' cards have all the numbers of every voter, all the numbers of voters' cards. For some strange reason this year, you go to a polling station with your valid voters' card, only to find that your name is correct, the picture on the voter register is correct, the master register is correct at the polling station, but there's a different number that is put on the voter register, which is different from the number on your card that you have. And on the basis of that, they were told that they cannot vote. In previous elections, if you have a valid voter's card and you go to a polling station, you are allowed to vote, because that is, they will always say that there is an error in the imputation of the number on the master register. So you are allowed to vote. This time around, they kick people out. Also, we realized that at certain polling stations where we were not represented, they were telling the people that, oh, the opposition has already won, so there is no point in you voting, or you either go and add to the votes of the opposition. So some people, being angry with that, decided to go home. But also, there's one very big town, which is almost the size of Serekunda, Mr. Achieve may know, which has always voted massively for us. And every election, because the town is so big, when in fact people were voting from 8 a.m. to 6 o'clock, it has, for the past 4 elections, had 6 polling stations. The town is called Garawal. This time around, they decided to put only 1 polling station. The chief contacted the IEC and said, made it very clear, look, we always have 6 polling stations. Why is it that this time we are having only 1 polling station? They said, this is the way it is. And we are not adding any polling station. So imagine from 8 a.m. to 5 o'clock, only 1 polling station for a town that is as big as Serekunda. And the IEC refused the request of the administrative officer, that is the chief, the district chief, who the villagers were appealing to make sure that they give them back the 6 polling stations. They said, no, they are not going to do it. Thereby disenfranchising our supporters from voting. So, and this is a repetition, okay, in any any election anywhere in the world, if by the time of closing the polls, you have people that have lined up at the polling station, you allow them to vote. This time around, people were coming in to vote, also considering distances in the province where some people have to go maybe 2 kilometers. They came, they lined up, and they were told that their time is up, and they kicked them out, which is also unacceptable. So this is the situation that we are challenging. We want to make sure that everybody votes in the elections. Everybody is given the right to vote freely. And so we rejected the results, and I reject the results up to today. Now, there are also other factors that that transpired, that of course we will talk later off the camera. And so what we are asking for is not for the IEC to declare me the winner. I cannot do that, because already everything is messed up. And so if I want a conflict, then that's the only time I say I'm the winner, because it is not clear. They have already made it clear that the results, no matter what we do, is not going to change the result. But at the same time also, they announced 2 conflicting, they announced 2 results. After announcing the first one, they then came back the same day, both of which were also signed by the IEC chairman. And then they came and said, this is what has happened. Now, it is unacceptable. So, what we are asking for is to go back to the electorate under an completely independent electoral commission that would supervise the elections as we used to do before without having any problem, and allow every Gambian to vote. But it is abnormal that you set up a time frame. In any country, anywhere in the world, I've been watching elections. If people are already at the polling station, you allow them to vote. But this time around, people were lined up to vote, and they were told that they cannot vote because time was up, and they closed prematurely. So the whole system, as I said, was set up, and even before the elections, there were statements being made. Oh, this time around, yeah, I must go. I will only go when the Gambian people say so. Now, the interesting bit, the ECOWAS team came here, and I explained to them, gave them the documents to that effect, what has happened, and why I decided to reverse my early acceptance to non-acceptance based on the facts. I will not cheat, but I will not be cheated. Justice must be done. And the only way justice can be done is to reorganize elections so that every Gambian votes, and that's the only way we can resolve the matter peacefully and fairly. All the previous elections, including the 2011 elections, I have defeated all the political parties combined by almost, most of the time, 200,000 votes. And it kept increasing every year. Before the election, even hostile foreign press were saying that there's going to be an election that the incumbent is expected to win easily. Now, when I accepted, they made praises about me. But when I now realized that I've been cheated, and I said, no, I'm not going to accept this result, they called me all sorts of names. I don't care. ECOWAS came here, and in fact, there's one also sacrosanct principle of the ECOWAS Charter. That is the non-interference in the internal affairs of member states, which in this case has been violated. They came and I explained to them, they said they were going to have a meeting in Abuja. But before they came also, we have documents from a foreign government saying that they are going to send those people, a government that is not even an African country. They are going to send those people to talk to me, not to change my mind, otherwise there's going to be bloodshed. So in order to avoid bloodshed, I must accept what I earlier said, and also leave the country. That I should leave the country and take a break. Who are they to tell me to leave my country? Because if I stay around, I may interfere with the democratization process. This country has been independent since 1965. And they want me to leave my country. Who are they to tell me to leave my country? So this is the situation. I sent representatives. I was told, I made it very clear what my position is. They said they're going to have a meeting in Abuja. But apparently, the document we got from a foreign government asking me to leave or there will be bloodshed, and that they are sending those people. They didn't say ECOWAS, they said they are sending those people. The names, the countries were listed that they are coming, even before we got official notification that they are coming. So they came and I explained to them. They met with me first and then went to meet the other side. They came back and said, well, yes, despite all what you said, the results they announced are the will of the Gambian people. I said, how the hell do you know that this is the will of the Gambian people? When 360,000 have not voted, 40% of the registered voters didn't vote for the first time. You're telling me this is the will of the Gambian people. And they made it very clear that they made a mistake by transposing all votes cast in an administrative area to Adama Barrow, thereby swelling his votes nationally. They didn't say regionally, they said nationally. They said, well, you know, we spoke to the IEC, we spoke to the other side, and this is the will of the government. I made it very clear I will not accept it, and that's where I stand up to today. They said they were going to have a meeting in Abuja Saturday, and they asked me whether I would attend. I made it very clear I'm not attending, but I'm sending a representative. Now, already the meeting was a formality. In fact, before those people came, the ECOWAS group, you see headlines saying, UN said Jammeh must step down immediately. The so-called president-elect also was embodied and saying, no, Jammeh must step down immediately. I will not step down. Because this is disrespectful of our constitution, which says a transition period of 60 days. Even if he had won legally, I have 60 days transition to hand over. So, what is the role of the UN to now go around and say, Jammeh must step down immediately? And then they also brought foreign security for him, without informing me. I'm still the president and commander-in-chief of this country. They brought foreign security to secure him because he has no confidence in the Gambian armed forces. So anyway, to cut a long story short, This is what has happened. And we made it clear, I made it very clear to the delegation that came. In fact, I think it was, they called they told me to send a representative, only for the representative to be told that, yes, we ECOWAS, there are also other ECOWAS members that disagree with this decision. That yes, Jammeh must hand over, and on the 19th of January, we ECOWAS, all ECOWAS heads of state will be in Banjul to see the inauguration of the president-elect. ECOWAS. This is violating one rule that says non-interference in the internal matters of countries. And what did they say? Knowing that we have a strong case, they said, irrespective, in fact, we should not go to the court. And irrespective of the court decision, if you proceed, they know that I'm going to proceed. Irrespective of the court decision, they will enforce the December 1 election results. Let them enforce it to them and see. What are they waiting for? So this is the situation. I will not be intimidated by any power in this world. I want to make sure that justice is done. I'm a man of peace, but I cannot also be a coward. My rights cannot be violated and intimidated to a point where I succumb to blackmail. I will never do that. So this is my position. All what we want is a peaceful resolution of the conflict by Gambians based on the constitution of the Gambia. So this is the situation. In as much as I don't want any violence, but now they made a decision that no matter what the outcome of the court is, we will enforce the December 1st results. After they have all these documents that I'm giving you. So my brother, this is the situation. I want to thank you for coming. I'm a man of peace, but that doesn't also mean that I will not defend myself and defend my country. And defend my country courageously, patriotically, and win. Emerge victorious. Nobody can deprive me of that victory, except the Almighty Allah. So this is the situation, and I want to thank you for the work that you are going to do. You also have permission to meet any side. To meet any side. But I want you to understand that there are patriotic sides and those that are working for foreign agents. I have many crimes that I have committed with regards to the superpowers. One, I stand to say no when it is not right. And I stand to make sure that Africans will not be insulted because we are black. And I make sure that Africans' resources are not remote controlled. Because we have so many resources and we are the poorest of the poor. And we are the ones, our citizens are the people that are mistreated outside of Africa. When they talk about non-acceptance of refugees, basically it's Africa, African refugees. We also took the EU to the IEC for the killing of African youngsters on the European coast. And they said they will teach me a lesson. Interestingly enough, the ICC didn't do anything about it. First letter we wrote, there was no response. When we asked, they say, oh, well, there are two ways to do. One way you write, that means you, the government, will conduct the investigation and put the facts before the ICC. But this way where you write, which you write, and then the ICC would conduct their own investigation, which is more advisable. So we changed all that, and we didn't hear anything. And that's why we left the ICC because they were happy to prosecute Africans, but not Europeans. So a court, an international court that is only bent on persecuting Africans, we were not a member to that court. Oh, so there are so many factors. We left the Commonwealth, and they were angry with me because we didn't want Gambia to be seen as a colony of Britain. Colonialism has ended. You have the Foreign Secretary of Britain making comments about the Gambia, deciding what should be done about the Gambia, which was unacceptable. We have always realized that the Commonwealth is a neo-colonialist institution But we were bidding our time thinking that we can reform it within to make sure that it represents everybody's right, only to realize that we all go there as governors and not heads of state. I decided to leave the Commonwealth. We cannot be colonized twice and we will not be enslaved twice. These are some of the reasons. The other reasons are also related to natural resources, but I won't go further into this because when I refused to accept 5%, that is for the oil, 5%, that means 5 cents for every dollar for 35 years, I was told there will be regime change. I say, oh, if God says so, I'll be worried. But because you are saying so, now I'm not even accepting whatever offer you give unless it is 50-50. You could have been exporting oil before other countries, but this is the problem. As you stated about Gabon, this is the reality. You know what Charles Taylor's crime was? They said it's true that he got involved in this conflict, but that alone wouldn't have warranted his arrest. It was when they discovered, I think, some minerals, and they offered him the 5 cents per dollar, and he refused. They told him regime change. And so, when there was regime change also, they wanted to make sure that, because they use intimidation for other African leaders to say, oh, you see what happened to this person. And that's why they took him to the ICC or whatever, or the tribunal at The Hague. So also, other heads of state that have minerals that are very expensive, they are the major producers, but they are the poorest of the poor countries in Africa. When a particular head of state in West Africa said he was going to make sure that they have, when he saw the price of uranium and said this is unacceptable, what these people are giving us is bitter, it's an insult. At a meeting in Libya, he made a comment, and I told him, my brother, I know you don't like me because, he said, you know, sometimes we thought you are crazy, but when we go back and listen to what you say, reflect on what you say, and look at our reality, we know that you are a Pan-Africanist. And I thought, well, I'll tell you, and he said, this is unacceptable. I said, okay, well, but be ready for one thing. They would overthrow you if you are not strong. And so he decided to reverse and wanted to open it for anybody who is interested. His former colonial master said, anything that belongs to our former colonies, in terms of minerals, we have the first choice. First choice of, in law you say refusal. Yes. So if you want to change, we have to negotiate. They gave him an offer which was unacceptable. And they made it very clear that that is why we have basis. So the situation is this. If you stand up for defend your God-given resources, you are in trouble with those people that still believe that by virtue of their color, they are superior to anybody who is not their color. And so, this is the situation. Who is the EU to say that whether, no matter what happens in the court, the December 1st elections will be enforced? In Austria, didn't they go back to the elections? Austria, when the far right, they said the far right lost narrowly by a percentage point. The far right came back and said, no, they went, didn't they go to court? And the court allowed them to go back to the polls, whereby the far right won and they accepted defeat this time, that it was true that they lost. So if for Europe they can, for the West they will always call for peaceful resolution of conflict. And in Africa, they want violent, in fact, that is a resolution, because once you think of adding petrol into a fire, thank God there's no fire in this country. This is how they destabilize our countries. Put one against the other, as one of you said, brother against brother, whatever. Because that is how they get our raw materials, our natural resources, free of charge. So, and unfortunately, it took us 9 years to 10 years intervention in Liberia to resolve the crisis. Whereas the war has ended, the economic crisis is deepening. So in all countries like Sierra Leone and others, this is what has happened. Now, if this is what they want for the Gambia, I hear them. But I don't believe in what they are saying. I believe in what Allah is going to do. Allah would judge, and may the Almighty Allah judge, so that we resolve this conflict peacefully, in a justifiable manner, based on the laws and constitution of the Gambia, not based on any European or any outside law, or any constitution, or any power. As I said, this conflict cannot be resolved peacefully if threats are being made. When the institutions concerned disrespect the facts. This is where we are. I want to thank you for coming. And I assure you once again that you are free to go to any quarters and find out what you need to find out. This is the situation. All what we are saying, I'm not declaring myself the winner. All I'm saying is what we want is to go back to the Gambian people, and this is where I stand today, tomorrow, and day after tomorrow for 1 billion years. Thank you.